Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Warmly welcome all of you to the inaugural webinar of Rise Up Mora 2023, organized by the IEEE Student Branch of University of Moratuwa, mainly focused on excelling in interviews procedure. So, with our goal partner WSO2, let's see how throughout the session our insights and valuable information will be focused on you. So I'm Jaini Ranchagada and I will be your host guiding through this informative and engaging session this evening. Today marks the beginning of an exciting webinar that will empower you with essential skills for excelling in interviews, which is a crucial step in securing your dream job. Interviews are the gateway to your future career, and mastering them is essential to make the best impression on potential employers. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's an absolute pleasure to have you all here with us today for our special webinar session on excelling in interviews. Before we dive into the heart of today's session, allow me to express our sincere gratitude to our invaluable goal partner, WSO2. Their unwavering support has made this enlightening session possible, and we are truly thankful for their collaboration with Rise Up Mora 2023, which is organized by the IEEE Student Branch of University of Moratuwa. So now is the time that we all are waited. So let me introduce our key speaker today, Mr. Amila Maharachi, the Vice President of Engineering Integration at WSO2. He will share his valuable insights and expertise to help you in the process of excelling in interviews. So without further ado, let me introduce our keynote speaker to do the proceedings of the today's session. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Jenny. Thanks for the introduction. Before starting, can you remind me which faculty, the students of which faculties are joining this webinar and which year they are studying?
Engineering faculty, IT faculty, and most of the students are from their third years who are willing to do the internships in the upcoming semester.
Okay, thank you. Right, let me share my screen. You can see my screen, right? The slide deck?
Yes, we can see.
In the presentation mode, right? Not in the browser, right? Okay.
Yeah,
right.
In the presentation.
Yeah. So, good evening to all the students joining this webinar. I'm very glad to conduct this session on excelling in interviews. I think that's the title you have put for the agenda. But I thought I should, in my slide deck, I should use it as interview preparation because you will understand why I have made that change in the title. Yeah, so before starting, I think Jan introduced me as well. So my name is Amila Maharachi. I am VP of Engineering for Integration in WSO2. I too graduated from Faculty of Engineering, University of Moratuwa in 2008. Right. So before we jump into the internship preparation, we'll talk a little bit about what's an internship, right? So this I took, I think, from Wikipedia, maybe. The definition of an internship is it's the position of a student or trainee who works for an organization, maybe with payment or not, to gain some work experience or to satisfy a requirement in one of their courses, right? So that's what an internship is about. we go for internship either to get experience or to qualify a requirement in our course, or to both. And while doing that, we could get paid or not. So that depends on the organizations. And I thought of adding this picture of this hilarious movie, Internship. If you have watched it, you might know like why I have put it. Like basically those guys, they ended up in Google as interns, and like they were not actually qualified, but like they got in there. I don't remember how, but they did really well during their internship. All right. So interview is not actually the most important thing. The most important thing is getting selected for an interview, right? Because like there's a high demand, a lot of people are applying, and only if you get selected for an interview, then only you can prove yourself, or you can like answer questions and like let the organization to judge yourself. That's why I have mentioned as getting selected for an interview as the most important thing. As I mentioned, there's a lot of competition, and unfortunately, the organizations do not have a lot of time to spend on shortlisting candidates. Now, like how many students are there in your batches, right? Like more than hundreds, or like 100, 200, 250. Some faculties, they have like 400 or so. And all the students, they want to join the best organizations. So all of them, like they apply for the best organizations. And if you get like hundreds of CVs, like it's very difficult to spend time on shortlisting these. And the truth is, very little time is spent on like, looking at your CV. A few minutes, like not seconds. That's good news. So you need to stand out from the crowd. And your only representative to stand out from the crowd is your CV, right? Now, that means you need to have a good CV, right? So the secret for a good CV is building yourself towards it. Now, what that means is, I assume almost all of you have prepared your CVs as of now. And when you wanted to prepare it, when you wanted to like create your CV, when you start Word or some software, and when you sit in front of your laptop, like how many of you like had to think a lot on, okay, what should I put in my CV, right? So if you have built yourself towards this, then it's a very easy thing preparing a CV. But if you haven't prepared yourself, if you haven't built yourself, then it becomes a challenging task to prepare your CV, because you don't have anything to put in your CV. So we'll talk a little bit about building yourself, right? Now, one is you need to do well in the academics, because that tells you that gives an idea to the organization. Okay, this person, he knows the fundamentals, because the academics teaches us the fundamentals of the things which are needed in the industry. So that is one way of letting know that you know the fundamentals, and also like you have like good intellectual skills. Then the second thing is like being in touch with the technology. So now I am like, this may be relevant to any field, but I am mainly talking to IT and basically CS students, right? So as IT students or software engineering students, you should be in touch with the technologies which are used in the industry. Now, even if you know the fundamentals well, if you don't have a good touch, then that will be a disadvantage. Because knowing these technologies means that you are curious about the industry and you like to learn things in the industry, because that's what we want in the software development industry. So you should have some experience with the latest technologies. Some of the hot technologies are like, like everything is now in cloud, everybody is moving to cloud. So cloud technologies are a must. You should know one or more of these things: AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud Platform. There are many other cloud options, but these are the major or the mega cloud vendors. So you should have some idea about these vendors and the solutions. And then similar to the cloud infrastructure, nowadays container technologies are also highly popular. And on top of these cloud infrastructures, people are trying to using the container technologies. So Docker and Kubernetes are the most popular ones, and there are many other flavors of these, many other flavors of container management systems and container orchestration systems. So you should have tried you should have tried these things. You should have gotten your hands dirty with these things, right? Done some work, deployed something in these things, so then only you can be confident that you are aware of these technologies. And then obviously the programming languages are there. Definitely you should know at least one, but one is not enough, I think, these days. Like, we are looking for full stack developers. That means you need to know multiple technologies, like some for backend programming, some for front end, and then database related things and all those. So as I mentioned, like, yes, there are both backend and front end related technologies like React, Angular, Vue.js, and all those. So you should have done something using these technologies. Then we need some proof that you have done things, right? For example, like I have gone through a lot of CVs which we have received for both internship and also from the graduating students. Unfortunately, in the very recent past, most of the CVs I received, like when we go through them, there weren't anything, or there weren't much things outside the academic stuff. So that is now, when I say like we are looking for proof that we have done things, we need something outside the curriculum. For example, the things I have mentioned here is like Google Summer of Code. Almost all of you should be aware of it. And then freelance working, there are a lot of freelance sites like Fiverr, Upworks, and things like that. And then there are open source projects you can contribute. So Summer of Code also somewhat related to the open source projects, because like Google offers opportunities for us to do certain projects in open source projects, and then they pay us. So if you have done something like this, then we know, okay, this person, this student, they know the subjects and they have applied those things and they have done some real work. So that gives us a very uh, high confidence in selecting you for a position in either internship or employment in our organizations. Then there's something called the personal brand, right? Like now with the with the internet, the world has become a very small place, right? uh, Unlike about 15 years ago, you can find out anything you want about people and all, everyone. So um, this is about your personal brand in the internet, right? Now when we get a CV, and if you type your name and do a search, uh, we check, okay, what are the things those are appearing. For example, if there are blog posts you have written, then like we look at, okay, whether you have contributed to Stack Overflow and things like Quora, and an email sent to the public mailing list. For example, if you have worked with open source projects, there are public mailing lists. LinkedIn profile and other social media profiles, like there won't be much, but like that can also tell a story about you, especially your Facebook profile kind of things. It can give some idea about your behaviors and all this. So you have to be a bit careful about those as well. Right. Now, so that was about like uh, building your brand, because you need to build your brand to prepare for a prepare your CV, right? And then when you're preparing the CV, don't make it look like any other CV. So sometimes when we go through like about 50 or 100 CVs, towards the latter part of the CV set, okay, like we know what every person has done. Like, it's the same thing, like same projects done for the different subjects, and like same events they have attended. Like basically everything looks very same. And even when we are doing interviews, like also, okay, when we have done interviews with few people, we know when the next people come, okay, we know about what they have done because like we have discussed about the project. So don't like make it look like any other person's CV, because it will be a disadvantage for you. Like if there's something different, then as I mentioned at the beginning, that will help you to stand out of the crowd. This applies to the basically your achievements, and also the design and the content and the structure of the CV as well. Don't take someone's CV and change the content and send it. Try to uh, prepare something unique, and then highlight the best of yourself, your achievements, basically your academic stuff, things like that, right? And it's very important to include what you have done, right? Not what you have heard of. Like sometimes we have seen students, they, for example, like, like in almost everyone's CV, there's a section about familiar technologies and all those. And there you put technologies that you have heard of. For example, someone might say Kubernetes because you have heard of it. Now, when we see that, we might uh, we might be interested in asking some questions about Kubernetes to see how much you know. But if you don't know anything, and if you just have put the jargons for the sake of adding, then if you realize, okay, this person doesn't know anything about those things, we will lose the trust. So because of that, like include only what you have done, right? Another important thing is review for mistakes. Now, in this case, I have purposely add a typo here. Similar to that, like when you are preparing the CV, double check or triple check it for the spelling mistakes and then the grammar and everything. Sometimes I have seen CVs even with the people's like name spelled wrong. Like it's very difficult to imagine how someone would misspell their name, right? They write it all the time. And when adding references, please ask for permission from the people whom you're adding as referees, right? Sometimes like we might ask, okay, how do you know this person? And you might say, okay, I know this person in from so and all those. We might be interested in asking from that person, okay, whether you know this student. If you haven't asked for permission, then like that person might not remember about you, and that will be a problem that will prove that will come as a negative point for your integrity. Because of that, like when you are adding references, ask for permission from people. And also now there's a debate on like whether it's good to add a photo or not. It depends, right? This is not a concrete thing, but I feel it's good to include a photo because that will help the people who are going through your CVs to remind you, not remind you, remember you. For example, like if we have to like shortlist, right? And then we shortlist, and like if we have to do another round of things, then we might remember the CVs from the photos and all those. And even if you come, let's say we do a first round of interviews, and if we do a second round, sometimes it will help. So that's not a concrete thing, but it's good to include a professional photo, right? Not a funky photo, because the CVs should be very professional. So what can make a difference in your CV? Like I mentioned, like the content and the structure and the design, though it can make a difference. And your achievements, right? especially academic and non-academic things. Academic means like your GPA and all those. And if you have done anything else on academic side, that is also good. And then the non-academic things like, okay, any sports related things or anything. And then, as I mentioned earlier, a proof for the things you have done. And another thing is things we have done outside of your course. As I mentioned, like it's very discouraging to see CVs without with zero things done outside the course. Basically, some students, they have only done the projects which are assigned by the lecturers. So it's very discouraging or very sad to see that sort of CVs. And if you have done some good work, you might have publications you can mention in your CV. That is very good. And if you have done any voluntary service, this is just an example, right? Like there could be many things you have done out of your course. And if there are any places you have added some value, maybe it could be during some voluntary work, or like you might have written some software or some place to improve things, maybe free of charge, or even without software. Maybe you can go and help with your intellectual abilities, right? You guys are all bright students, so those kind of things can also make a difference. So like think of such cases, and if there are things, you can add them as well. Right, now you have prepared your CV. Now you are going to apply for an internship, right? First thing is you should know which company or companies you want to apply, right? This means you should have a taste about the industry. Like now, unlike our days, in our days, there were about only like 10 or 15 software companies. We knew all of them by name. Now it's very different. There are hundreds of companies. We know very few. We don't know most of the companies. But you should be having some idea about, okay, in which area I want to proceed. For example, like there are WSO2 like companies which develop middlewares, and then there are project companies who undertake projects of the customers and do, and there are companies which create products related to, let's say, AI related things, human resource, finance, stock brokering, and all those, right? There are different domains, healthcare. So sometimes you might have an idea or an interest to work for such a company, and then there's a one of the major differentiation is like project companies versus product companies. So those kind of things you should be aware. And also you should have an idea. Now even in software engineering, there are different disciplines, right? Like software development, QA, business analysis, technical writing, and things like that. So everyone doesn't need to be a software developer, right? There won't be people to do QA and technical writing and BA jobs. So there are opportunities for others as well. So if you have a interest in those areas, so you should know. Then when you are applying, when you are ready to apply, you can mention that in the CV. And it's very important to follow the instructions given by those companies. For example, if they say, okay, collect all the CVs and send it through the lecturer or some representative, you have to do it like that. If they provide a portal and ask you to upload the CV, then you have to follow that instruction. And if they ask to send a PDF, you have to send a PDF, not a Word document, right? Similar like that. Because that also, for example, if the company is asking to send a PDF, and if you send a Google document, sorry, a Word document, that means like you don't pay attention to detail, and there's a high chance your CV can get rejected. And also, if there are automated processing happening at the initial stage, your CV will get rejected, right? Right, now this is the part I think you all wanted to know, right? Like what you meant by excelling in interviews, but like now, so so you have applied for an internship, among others. Now you have got selected and you have been called for an interview, right? Now you have to face the interview. There is a technical preparation we have to do, but it's very difficult to predict. Sometimes you can ask, but this mostly happens when you are going for an interview for an employment position. You can ask, okay, what's the structure and all those. Some people ask, but for internship, I haven't seen people ask, or like we being eager to mention that as well. So it's difficult to predict what are the technical things a company would ask, but it's always good to revise your memory on the fundamentals, right? Such as data structures, algorithms, database, and those kind of things. The subjects, basically, the fundamentals of those subjects, because they are taught for a reason, right? They are not taught because there aren't any other subjects to be taught. So it's good to revise your memory on those fundamentals, because there's a high chance a couple of questions coming from that. And if you have put some programming languages as like familiar programming languages, there is a little chance that a couple of questions from that are also coming up. But talking about internship interviews, not many companies, they expect people to be able to code, so they don't ask a lot of questions about the programming languages, right? I think most companies, they ask a lot of questions about the projects and the courses you have done, right? So I forgot to mention one thing, like it's good to do these. So if you are, I mentioned that technology is one way of building yourself, like being familiar with the technologies. One way to be familiar with the technologies is to follow some courses. There are so many um, free courses available, right? So you can follow some courses. And if you have mentioned that you have followed a certain course, there could be questions coming from that as well. So it's good to revise your memory on these things. So that's the technical preparation. And you have a physical preparation as well to be done, right? One thing is you need to be mindful about the attire, right? You should wear something pleasant for the interview. And I haven't seen any problems with that. I think almost all the students, they come with a proper attire, so that's all good. And then punctuality, right? Whether it's a physical or a virtual interview, you should join that or come to the place on time, unless there's a valid reason. But you should always try to avoid all the unexpected things and make it on time. And then the physical appearance, right? So we know, like, you guys are all young students, right? You like to do different styles and fashion and all those, and grow your hair, grow your beard, or like do piercing and all those. That's all fine, but during an interview, try to be somewhat pleasant, right? I'm not telling that you should remove all those and go, because it depends on the person doing the interview as well. For example, the person might not like someone with a grown hair or a beard. Don't know. We can't take a chance, right? Like, or that person may be totally cool about those things as well. So you should try to strike the balance and go for the interview. And then, like, before the interview, if it's a physical one, check the location, because, right, sometimes if there are multiple offices, like, you might think, okay, you have to go to that office, but the interview might be at a different office, so that could have an impact on your interview. So always be prepared, check on those things. Now let's talk about facing the interview, right, virtually. Let me see. Yeah. I'll talk about physical one as well, like facing the interviews virtually. One is attire, functionality is needed, and it's very important to have a high quality or good quality internet connection, because it's like, it sucks uh, when there's a bad connection. Like we ask a question, we have to repeat it, and then you give the answer, we can't hear it, it breaks, and then you have to repeat it. Basically, that entire vibe of an interview is gone. And then you will also like get stressed out, and then you won't be able to face the interview in a calm with a calm mind, right? So it's always good to have a good quality internet connection. Check for any virtual meeting software which are needed. Right now there are like how many most commonly used ones are Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, and Zoom, right? There could be some others as well depending on the company, but I think 95% of the time, especially in Sri Lanka, one of these three are used. But don't take a chance, right? Check what's the platform and make sure the software is there in your machine. For example, like now I was free before this webinar. I was doing some other work, some office work, and then I suddenly realized, okay, this is, I remember this was on Zoom, and we are now using Google Meet. So I didn't know whether my Zoom is working. So at 5 minutes before I tried it, it wasn't working. My Zoom was outdated, and it wanted me to update it, and I tried to update, it wasn't working. So I had to uninstall it and install it again, and then I was able to join in time. So if I tried it right on time, then I would have been 5 or 6 minutes late. Right now, assuming that happening to you in an interview, that's a disadvantage. And be mindful about the background, right? Uh, it's very unpleasant or unprofessional uh, when like your bed or your wardrobe or the mosquito net kind of things, or your uh, some bookshelf which is not properly arranged is appearing in your background, because that could tell some story about you as well. But and mostly it delivers a message, okay, this person is not caring about that aspect. And then there are a lot of virtual backgrounds available, so you can put a nice background. I think Jaini, right, who did the introduction, she was using a virtual background, which is good. And then look for, like, make sure there aren't any background noises as well, right? From if you are taking it from your house, like please ask the family members to be a little quiet during that time. Uh, Otherwise, there'll be a lot of noises and all those, so it will interrupt the session. You need to consider about the lighting as well, right? For example, sometimes some students, like, they sit uh, uh, like facing their back to a window where the light source is coming, and then they look completely like aliens, right? Like we see only a black picture, we don't see the face properly and all. So always like have a good lighting, like to your face, so you appear nice in the interview. And then I prepared this presentation some time back, and those days power cuts was a big thing, so I included power cuts as well. But now also it can happen, right? So if there's a power cut, like, yes, your laptop should work as well, and then your internet connection should work as well. So think about that as well. So if you are worried about such a thing, then it's better to go for a place where you have uh, those resources without interruption. Another thing is, like, now there could be like we ask questions. This I haven't mentioned in the slide. Now we ask questions about the projects and the technical things we have done. Uh, you should be explaining things in a way, like, assuming that person doesn't understand, right? Sometimes people directly jump into the technicalities and start explaining. For example, when we ask about some projects, but now I can't give a lot of guidelines, but when you are explaining something, you should like do it in a way that other person understand. Like, don't think they know certain things, don't assume they know certain things. You can ask, okay, so this is about this, are you aware of it? If not, I can explain things like. And then if the person is aware, they say no, no, you can avoid that and jump into the implementation and things like that. So otherwise we'll have to ask questions, and basically to understand the things we have to ask questions, a lot of questions, and basically dig deep into it and then understand. So if you can, like, I have seen some very good students, like they are like teachers, they are able to explain things very well. And when something like when we see students like that, that, like, we are impressed. But only explaining things doesn't impress us, like, that plus other things, it has to be a combination of things. So that's how. And then, like, if you don't know, like, don't try to uh, uh, lie, right? If you don't know, say you don't know, because it is better than like trying to lie and get caught, right? That's one. And then there could be sometimes like questions that you might get, I don't know, like offended. But in that case, like, you shouldn't like get angry or show anger. This is a very rare thing. But sometimes when we keep ask questions, like, when we go deep into certain things while by asking questions, some people, like, they tend to like lose their uh, the calm or the coolness, and like so we feel it, right? So that also basically gives away certain qualities of you. So those are, I mean, I'm not telling that you should hide things. Basically it's bad bad to hide your those weaknesses, but because they will someday come out. So those are the things we have to improve, right? Not like not to fake them. uh, right. So I included something which happens after you get selected as well, right? Like uh, I mentioned at the beginning, internship is a way for you to like get some experience, right? But it is also a way for you to prove yourself to some organization. There's a high chance that that is where you will be working after you graduate, right? Basically, you are laying the foundation for your career during the internship. So you have to you can make an investment for your career. So doesn't like getting selected for an internship doesn't mean you can relax, right? Because when you come to that organization and you start the internship, there'll be many things you don't know technically and non-technically. So the technical things we have to learn. So this IT industry or the software industry it's a never-ending learning, right? You can't relax uh, at all. Every day uh, you have to learn something new. Um, so even in the internship, that's the same. You have to learn things and do things by your own. There'll be mentors to guide you, but like there won't be a lot of spoon feeding. And then you have to understand the organizational practices, like how they communicate using email, uh, their meeting procedures, working time, and leave policy, and all those, right? You can't just like not turn up to working just because you feel like you are, like how you guys attend lectures, but you can't do things like that when you are during the internship, in the internship, right? And the work time also, you should like follow the common practices. And then you can learn the products which are developed by that company, or the projects you are working on, do research, and basically leave that place with a positive note. Then when you are graduating, that company basically will be happy and happily waiting to recruit you. Right. I think, yeah, that's all I wanted to share with you. So basically, what I wanted to cover was like facing the interview is not the only thing. You need to get selected. For that, you need to build yourself, prepare yourself for that. And then also after getting selected, um, you can't relax. You have to invest for your future. All right. Any questions? And even in this kind of a session, it's good to turn your video on, right? Like, just show that you guys are there in front of the laptop. Then, like, me or whoever doing a similar session will know, okay, we are talking to real students, right? Not the laptops. Any questions? Have you guys applied for the internships as of now, or like when are you planning to do? I think Jane will have to answer.
Yes, we have applied actually
I
since
see.
from the last 2 months. Yeah, for the internship.
Okay, then it's too bad. The timing is too bad because like the first half may not applicable, but at least the second half of the session will be applicable, right? So the preparing for the interview, then facing it, uh, physical or virtual, so those things, I think you can take some.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. If there are no questions, then I'd like to wind up as well because I have something else to attend in like 10 minutes.
Okay, so thank you so much, Mr. Amila Maharaji, for your valuable time and your wisdom for sharing your expertise and your knowledge with us. So I hope you all have gained valuable insights from our keynote speaker. So again, thank you so much. And I kindly request you to accept our token of appreciation as our gratitude and thankfulness for your contribution.
Okay. Thanks for giving the opportunity and thanks for the token of appreciation as well. And sorry, there's a question from someone telling that sometimes they get nervous at the interview. Will it be a bad impression? No, getting nervous is it doesn't leave a bad impression. If you are someone who get nervous during interviews, like try to do a couple of mock interviews with your friends or someone, right? And also like talk or like if you are explaining your project, like you can explain it and record it and see, okay, how does it sound and all those. So it's totally fine. When you face multiple interviews, you will get used to it. And then if you are completely telling the truth in the interview, there's nothing to be nervous about. Like, I mean, I remember when I faced my interview for WSO2, there were some questions which were asked, like I wasn't aware of those. And then I said, sorry, I don't know those things. And then like that gave a positive impression because uh, like I was like identified as a honest person or a genuine person. Right? So don't be nervous. No problem. If you are nervous, like it's fine. All right. That's it then. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Avinam Harachi, again for your valuable contribution with us today. So now it's time to capture a photo, which makes a memorable day today. So I kindly request you all to turn on your cameras and engage with us for our group photo.
Come on, guys, put on a shirt and switch on the camera.
Okay, thank you so much, you all, for contributing with our group photo.
Thank you.
Okay, so now it's time to express our gratitude and thankfulness for the today's session. So, for doing word of thanks, I would like to invite one of the co-chairpersons of Rise Up Mora 2023, which is organized by the IEEE student branch of University of Moratuwa. For that, I would like to invite Situm Nimesh.
Thank you. Very good evening to all of you. I trust you are all feeling as inspired as I am after this enlightening session. We have had the privilege of gaining valuable insights from our distinguished speaker, Mr. Amila Maharaji, Vice President of Engineering Integration at WSO2, who has shared his expertise on excelling in interviews. Firstly, I'd like to express our heartfelt gratitude to our guest speaker, Mr. Amila Maharaji. Your expertise and willingness to share your knowledge have undoubtedly enriched us all. Your guidance on excelling in interviews will undoubtedly benefit our career journeys as well. A warm and appreciative thank you goes out to our sponsor WSO2 for being our gold partner and making this webinar possible, and and your support is instrumental in our efforts to provide valuable learning experience to our audience. To our dedicated organizing committees and volunteers, your hard work and commitment have been the driving force behind the success of this session. Last but not least, I want to express my gratitude to each and every one of you for your active participation in this session. Your engagement is what makes events like this truly special. For those who have applied for the mock interviews, now is the perfect time to prepare your CVs and get ready to put the insights of our today's session into practice. We believe this experience will significantly strengthen your professional journey. As we conclude this session, I encourage you to stay connected with us and keep an eye out for our future webinars. Thank you once again and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Situm, for your kind words. So now we have come to the end of this wonderful webinar series. So thank you so much, you guys, again for joining with us today. And we hope that you all have gained a valuable and fruitful insights throughout the session. And again, we are thankful for our keynote speaker and also our gold partner, WSO2. So we hope that you will have a great journey in your professional career. And we look forward to seeing you guys at our next session. So stay tuned and have a good night. I'm Jani Ranchagada signing off from today's webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you.